Hey guys, it's Dawn here, and today we're going to talk about what should I get as my first wheel. I'm not going to say specifically which wheel you should get, but we're going to talk about the different considerations for your first wheel. A lot of people will, oh my gosh, there are so many opinions on what your first wheel should be, and none of them are wrong. In fact, I don't think there is a wrong answer to this. This is going to be personal preference. This is going to be what do you know about yourself and what you would like. So what are your choices? You can choose between a very small wheel like an M103, M104. Those wheels are very small. They're very compact. They're actually not the easiest to learn on as your first wheel, but it is probably a wheel that you can keep forever. Those are part of my core stable, is like, no matter what, I'm gonna always have a small portable wheel. It's as easy to have in the car, to as a parking lot wheel, as a quick errand wheel, as help me around the house and yard work and taking out the trash and stuff like that. So, I always will want to have a small wheel. So no matter what, if I know that I'm going to be sticking with this sport, I'm going to have a small wheel in hand. So that purchase is not going to go to waste. For me, the number one priority is kind of like, I don't want to buy something and then outgrow it and then have to worry about selling it or getting rid of it or whatever. I want something that's going to stay with me forever. So a small, tiny wheel, it is possible to learn on it. It's just a little bit harder. And why is it harder? It's because it's so small. Then it's only down by your feet and your ankles. And it doesn't have enough height to make it so that your legs, your calves and your lower leg can be on it to help with the stability of the wheel. So, and when you're first getting into it, your ankles might not be the strongest, and so therefore you'll have a little more wobbles. It's also, it will pick up on every little input that you give it. Because it's very lightweight and you can throw it around and stuff like that with just one leg. So it doesn't have its own sense of stability, built into it. It is relying on you giving the wheel all of that. That's why it's a little bit harder. But can it be done? Yeah, of course. Anything can be done, right? And so just because it's not maybe the ideal best thing to do, don't let it stop you if you want to do it and all that, because then you'll just be that story of the person that learned and their first wheel was that unideal wheel. So that's not a bad thing. All right, so then you get to a little bit bigger wheel. So in the Bagot line, then it would be like the MCM5 or something like that, which is what I have. Now the MCM5 is a great size wheel. It is very easy to learn on because of the size, and it is durable, and it's great for kids. So my daughter learned on that when she was 7, and it's one that she likes to pick up and ride. So that I think would be the ideal learning wheel. But I don't have much use for that wheel otherwise. So that makes it, if it helps that I had a child, and if you have children, then that makes it a lot easier, because you're like, oh, this is for the, this can be for my kids later on or whatever. But yeah, for my personal use, no. So that's the problem with those wheels, that although those can also be good errand wheels and stuff like that. So you have that option. Then it's pretty much going, well, then you can get to the small wheels like the Falcon, the Extreme, something like that. These smaller size 14-inch wheels, they're 14-inch tire wheels. They're very good, and it does give you a little bit of the smaller size and of the bigger. So it is an intermediate step, and that would be a great option as well. and they can still be useful. And although I do not have one of those in my stable, I definitely would welcome one in my stable, but it's not one of the core ones that I have to have. It's not a must-have item. It's a, oh wow, you know, like it would be a luxury to have that be a part of my stable. So then you have those, and then you have your full-size wheels. There is an argument that, and I am a part of that, in that buy the wheel that you want to ride and learn it. Which is the full-size wheel. Now, it might be harder to learn, but, you know, I think it's worth it. It's worth it because it'll stay in your stable. That idea didn't quite work out for me. So my first wheel was the RS19, a full-size wheel at the time, because at that time, the Sherman was considered a really big wheel. And so the RS19 actually is now a wheel that is a smaller size, still has good capability, and was considered a full-size wheel at the time. But now we have a whole nother level of full-size wheels, right? Because back then the Sherman was considered a large wheel, and everyone was like, oh yeah, you can never learn on a Sherman. Look at how many people have learned on the Sherman, right? It can be done. But now we have wheels even bigger than the Sherman. We have our current full-size wheels are now, they make the Sherman feel like an M10-4. So I don't know about that argument. I think it goes back to you will learn, you will get accustomed to, and you'll get, you know, to whatever you put yourself through. It might be a little bit harder, but it can be done. So I say, if money is a concern and you're like, okay, I can only get one wheel, then absolutely get the wheel that you want to learn, and put, you know, just figure that it's going to be a little bit harder, because the only reason why it's going to be harder is because at the beginning, you don't have all of those muscles, all those tiny core muscles that you need for stabilization. And then the bigger and heavier the wheel is, the stronger those muscles have to be. So you're starting off with, you know, the muscles that you need, those little core muscles are like baby, and then you got to develop it. And if you develop it to here, then you're now able to ride an M10-4. You now have the muscle strength to ride an M10-4. Then you come up to here, then okay, now you have the muscle strength to ride an MCM5. Then, you know, so on and so forth. So it just will take you a little bit more time to develop those muscles, to have those strength to deal with the bigger, heavier wheels. That's really all it is. Well, maybe a little bit more. The bigger, heavier wheels, when they fall and they hit you, it could hurt a little bit more than the smaller wheels. So there is that. With the great range of sizes now, from how small the M10-3 is to how big and heavy and bulky, let's say the Panther is going to be at, what, 124 pounds? I would say maybe aim for something that is under 80 pounds, you know, somewhere around there would be better. The 80 pounds and up range probably is going to be a lot tougher for a newbie. So try to get the smaller wheel. It'll probably be cheaper to get a used one, and if you can borrow one from a friend, that would be ideal. Well, you know, of course they have to know that, you know, it's like, oh, pad up your wheels. Your learner wheel, pad it up to the, I stuck so much padding on that wheel just because you know that you're going to be crashing and dropping it a lot, and that'll help protect the wheel as you are going through this learning process. Now, should you get a wheel with suspension? Pretty much all the wheels coming out now, all the full-size wheels coming out now, are going to be having suspension on it. And there is an argument about whether or not you should get, your first wheel should have suspension. There is a lot of argument that your first wheel should not have suspension, so that you can learn all of the techniques and tricks and learn how to use your knees to properly shock absorb and stuff like that. Because what happens if you hit a really bad bump and you don't have suspension and you don't know how to use your knees as a shock absorber, then that bump could lead to a crash. So having suspension definitely helps. But is it a necessity? Do you have to get a wheel purposefully without suspension to learn that? I agree that it would be best, and it's always good to learn as much as you can learn. So, you know, I'm the type that I don't really like riding dirt, but I will stay on top of my dirt riding skills because I believe that any and all skills is valuable to have, okay? So when I learned how to drive a car, I learned stick shift. Now, all cars are going to be automatic. You know, you're not going to encounter that much. So does a new driver have to learn stick shift first if they are never going to encounter that again for the rest of their life? Probably not. Is it good information to have? Is it good to have that skill in your back pocket? Absolutely. So I think that mentality applies the same. I don't think that your first wheel, I don't think that you're going to be in that much of a deficit if you don't learn on a non-suspension wheel as, you know, your first wheel. But I don't know, everything that you can learn is always the best. And right now, a lot of the smaller wheels still don't have suspension. And so you could kill two birds with one stone then. Just get a smaller wheel with no suspension, and then your larger wheel, when you finally get to that one, does have suspension. And then you'll just be like, oh, this is so cushion awesome. But then you'll be like, why did I start off with this in the first place? So there is that thought. So there you go. Basically, there's going to be so many different opinions about it. I don't think that there is any wrong answer. You're going to find people that have learned on anything. Just trying to tell people that they have to learn this or that first, or get this or that, you know, it's silliness, because anyone can learn anything. And it would be like trying to tell people that you have to learn manual or pedal unicycle before you can learn the electric unicycle, right? Would that skill be handy? Absolutely. Would it make it even easier for you if you knew the manual? Absolutely. But do you have to do that now? No, you don't. So there is that. Let's see. And then, okay, choices on the different brands. The main brands out there is Begode or Gotway. I don't know if Gotway is still being used, but Begode, B-E-G-O-D-E. And then there is Kingsong, and there is In Motion, there is Leaperkim, and then there is Extreme Bowl. So if you are a racer type, adrenaline junkie, have to have the best performance wheel because you expect to be competing, you expect to be riding hard, you expect to be pushing to the limits all the time. You don't care so much about safety, but you just want the best performance, raw, performance type wheel, then I would say you sound like you want a Begode wheel. And as you know, all of my wheels are Begode wheels. Leaperkim is another extremely great company, and I believe that all of their wheels are going to be wheels that is solid, good, general all around, okay? So all of these other companies, they might not have the topmost raw performance, but their strength is in something else, like safety. The Leaperkim wheels are very excellent quality, and very safe. They have usually very good safety features, and they're just a good one to look at. Let's see. Then, what would I rank as the third best one? Well, okay, this is going to be a little bit tricky. I would say the third best choice that I would mention is Extreme Bowl. Now, Extreme Bowl so far seems to make excellent products that is kind of like an offshoot of Begode wheels. So they're going to have a lot of the same parts as older Begode wheels, and they're going to be very similar in a lot of ways to Begode wheels, but they are now called Extreme Bowl. And I don't know, earlier on, I guess they're a little bit newer onto the scene, and earlier on their quality seems to be a little bit lesser, but then they have tried to step it up and stuff. So their Commander Pro and stuff has been a really good wheel for a lot of people, and when I tested it, I really liked it as well. It was definitely up there. So Extreme Bowl is another good option to look at. Just a little bit more lacking in maybe quality, maybe by a tad, I'm not sure. I think that they're all improving by a lot all the time. Then InMotion. InMotion is a very high quality product. Their wheels are high quality. They are very focused on safety to the point that they put a huge safety margin into their wheels to make sure that it will tilt back, I think of all the wheels, the InMotion wheels really try to keep you upright and keep you from cutting out. And if you do manage to cut out an InMotion wheel, you had to be really pushing it, because that wheel really tries to keep you upright. So, and that's not fair to actively try to cut out and then blame the wheel, right? So, InMotion wheels are very high quality, and they do pay a lot of attention to the customer and safety. So that's excellent for InMotion, and I think that they're very focused on getting more people into the sport by creating things like the E20 with the 2 tires. And you know, a lot of us think that the E20 is silly because it has 2 tires and everything, and it rides funny. It doesn't quite ride like, you know, our typical electric unicycles. And then they make ones that you can sit on and with the handle and all that stuff. That might be a little silliness for, you know, like the hardcore, you know, electric unicyclers or something like that. But the good thing about it is that it is bringing more people into the sport, and people of differing skill and talent levels. So, you know, that's always a great thing. We want to be inclusive, not exclusive, right? So, and so that is big kudos to InMotion. And then there is King Song, which no fault of King Song, you know, that it's last, okay? I mean, someone had to be last. But I actually don't know that much about King Song. I have reviewed some of the King Song wheels in the past, and I've ridden the S22, and I will say this, my fastest speed in Fullerton Loop was on my friend's S22, and I literally never ridden a King Song wheel before at that time. My fastest time was on my Dirt Master, and he was very insistent that I borrow his S22 and do a speed run with it. I did, and my fastest time still remaining to this day is on that S22. So the S22s did have a ton of issues, and a ton of people have had them just spontaneously pass out and die and never to be reawoken again. So that is a big problem with the King Song. But their latest products does seem to be a lot more solid, great quality, really good wheels. They have the wheels that are more catered towards kids or smaller wheels, and I know that they're having some big wheel out now that's supposed to be the rage. I'm sorry, I don't know anything about that, so I can't speak on that. But I think that all of these companies do share information across the board somehow, maybe not entirely voluntarily, but somehow that it does get across. And so I don't think that you can go too wrong with it. The only people that, if you really, really care about being cutting edge and all that stuff, then maybe look into the Begode wheels. But Anyways, not sure how much that helped, but just some points to think about as you are considering which to get as your first wheel. The most important thing is that you gear up, you be safe, you give yourself the time and patience to do it, because really, no matter what it is you choose, you will get there on, and so the point is to get there safely, because you will get to the other side, and then you will just be one of those that, oh yeah, I learned on an M10-3, a wheel that people said not to learn on, or I learned on the ET Max, that was my first wheel. My first wheel was a Commander Pro, and I learned it just fine. May have taken me a week longer than normal or usual or whatever, but who is to say, right? So there is no wrong answer, you guys. Do what makes you happy, do what makes sense in your life, and we'll all be on the road and riding together either way. All right, thanks for joining me today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, consider joining my YouTube channel as a member, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye-bye.